Nowadays, this is one of the very interesting thing, prediction of chemical shift values. Okay, prediction of chemical shift values, and we have a lot of plotting softwares like ChemDraw, and then many other softwares are there. So these chemicals drawing plots are actually combined with predicting NMR spectrum, predicting FTIR spectrum, predicting UV absorption spectrum, predicting, converting the molecular structure to name to structure. So many things are possible. One of the interesting thing is that the predicting chemical shift values. It is how to predict it when you are dealing with a complex molecule. Of course, the software does those job nowadays. You don't have to worry about it. In the ChemDraw plotting, you just draw the molecule of your choice, and then you just ask for the NMR spectrum. Then immediately it gives the chemical shift values. Okay, approximate chemical shift values it gives you, and most of the cases those values can be is values will be matching with the experiment. Okay, as many people have tried and extensively and tabulated all these values, it is possible predicting very precisely the chemical shift values. Let us look at some of the chemical shift values. Okay, so in the case of alkane, you have a alkane. Okay, this alkane has, it can have different functional group: methyl, ethyl, propyl. Okay, the alkane can have different functional group, and alkane can have the alkane, you can take a methyl group, or you can take a ethyl, or you can take one propyl system. And if, let's say, on the methyl group, let's say if it is having a that means if you have a methyl functional group, and if it is attached to the hydrogen, that is essentially a methane compound. In the case of methane, the chemical shift value is 0.23. Suppose if this methyl group is attached to a ethylene substituent, the chemical shift value is 1.71. Suppose if this methyl is attached to a alkyne functional group, then it will be its chemical shift value will be 1.8. Let's say if it is attached to fluorine, then it is 4.27. So likewise, a methyl functional group, if it is attached to a different substituents, then accordingly its chemical shift values will be modified. Okay, so these are all the numbers which are actually well tabulated. You can take any of your compound. I mean, most of these things are tabulated. Let's say you take a propyl group, 2-propyl group, and then 2-propyl, and then if it is attached to a hydrogen, then it becomes 1.3, but then when it is attached to a fluorine, then it becomes 4.84. Right? So likewise, the chemical shift values changes. What I mean to say is that the chemical shift values of different functional groups and different systems are well tabulated, nicely tabulated. In most of the textbooks they are present. So what you can do is just look at those numbers, and then you can actually predict the chemical shift values. How it is possible? Well, let us take an example, hypothetical molecule. You have a benzene system, and then to which it is CH, and one side it is a methoxy group, the other side it has got the acid functional group. Now, to predict its chemical shift values, first of all, I wanted to predict the CH proton chemical shift value. Okay, so I want to predict the chemical shift value for CH proton. So it is suggested that when you have come across a CH proton of this kind, then normally it's to predict the chemical shift values, it is set this, okay, 1.5 plus sigma z alpha I plus sigma z beta z. What is this z alpha, z beta? They are basically the neighboring, on the neighboring functional groups. Okay, what are the functional group attached to CH? Those are the values. Okay, so those things you have to give it. For example, in this case, this to calculate the methane proton chemical shift value, its base value is 1.5. Okay, it is taken up. Now, next one is it has, this methyl group is attached to a particular CO. Okay, there is a CO, electronegative oxygen atom, it is attached. Therefore, we have to see this table. We have to see this table, and this table, when you look at, okay, so here you can see that I'm trying to calculate the methane proton chemical shift value. So therefore, I should look at the O. So here there is a O. So CO, if it is there, I have to add 1.38. Okay, and on the other side I have a COH. So I should look at again the COH where it is. So the COH is somewhere this way. Okay, COH is 0.87, right? You can see this. This is a COH functional group chemical shift value. So its a contribution is 0.87. Now the other side I have a benzene. It's not exactly a benzene, but then substituted benzene. So where it is, well, you just look at again where is that. Now I can see here there is a phenyl group. Okay, phenyl group. If it is just a phenyl group is attached one side to the this CH proton, then I should take only this 1.28. Okay, then I should take only this 1.28. Okay, I need not to really worry about what is attached to the benzene. So then a total, of course, the chlorine, I think it can be added. I think you have the chlorine substitution on the phenyl ring. So therefore, phenyl ring, if it is having a phenyl alone, then 1.28, but then it has a chlorine. Therefore, 0.31 contribution can be added. So I am going to basically add all those stuff. Okay, so base value is 1.5 and CO is that 1.35. The other one, acid contribution 0.87, phenyl group 1.28, and chlorine group it is 3.1. So all together, put together, it is 5.31. Okay, so 5.31 is the chemical shift value of this compound. So likewise, you can predict the chemical shift value for any compound. Okay, to calculate the to predict the chemical shift of cyclohexanes, then this is the table one should use it. Okay, this is the table that one should use it, depending upon the kind of substituent or kind of atoms which are attached to the adjacent carbon, the values, you will have a different contributions, and then you can actually do it. Okay, ethylene. So one more example I can show you. So ethylene molecule, you have, let's say it's a substituted ethylene molecules, then cis trans, and then geminal, both are there. So I just wanted to find out what could be the chemical shift value for this proton. So we wanted to calculate what is that proton. If that is the way it is, then the formula it is given by, suggested formula for predicting the ethylene proton is given by 5.25 is the base value. You can see here, this is the base value, and you have to add the geminal proton. Geminal proton, this is this one. This is the geminal, same side. Okay, same carbon atom. The proton, whatever it is, the functional, and the atom is attached to the same carbon, it is geminal, and the other one, vicinal, right? And also you have the trans and cis contribution. So altogether, this is the formula. Now what I have to do, well, so that the table is also given. Okay, if it is in the geminal position, if there is an alkane, then 0.45. Some alkyl functional group is a 0.45 contribution, it will be added. Then let's say if it is a trifluoro methane, then it is 0.66. Okay, and if there is a alkyne substituent, then it is 0.47. If it is a fluoro compound, this is 1.54. Likewise, this is a geminal. Let's say what is the atom or substitution at this geminal place, okay, based on which you have to take one of these numbers. Okay, similarly is the case for cis and trans. So that is precisely the way is the procedure that we will follow. We will try to estimate for this molecule, like One side you have the geminal proton, you have here is the methyl group is there on the same carbon. In the trans position you have the phenyl group, and then cis position you have a bromide. So we can evaluate or we can predict the chemical shift value for this proton. How? Well, you just take the base value, that is 5.25, and geminal place you have a methyl group, and in the geminal place if there is a methyl, then what should be added? Well, it is already given here. Okay, alkyne, it is 0.45, you have to add it. Okay, so base value is 5.25, and then later on alkyl, that is methyl group, it is there on the geminal carbon, and then for it is 0.45. Now in the cis position you have a bromide. If it is a bromide on the cis position, so please you have to go to the next column. This is the geminal cis. Okay, this is 0.45. Then what about trans one? Trans, you have a phenyl group, that is aromatic compound, then that contribute minus 0.07. So all together, if you add together, it becomes 6.08 is the ppm. 6.08 ppm is the chemical shift value for this proton, and experimentally it is determined to be 6.23 ppm. So roughly about with a 0.15 variation in the chemical shift, you are able to precisely, I cannot say it is a precise, but approximately you are able to calculate the chemical shift value for a given unknown compound. Okay, so this type of thing you can actually extrapolate to any type of system. Well, if you wanted to predict the chemical shift values for a benzene, monosubstituted benzene, and so on, you can use this formula and then this table, and you can do that. And naphthalene, monosubstituted naphthalenes, you have to follow this table, and pyridines you have to follow, and some of the fluorocompounds, the chemical shift values. Okay, it is possible, and nowadays you don't have to remember all these chemical shift values, but these plotting softwares or the many free softwares also available, and the moment you just draw the structure and then ask for the NMR spectrum, they give basically all these details. Okay, they give all this detail what we have discussed, contribution of what is the base value and what is the contribution of each different substituents nearby. Everything will be given. Okay, with this we have finished the most of the discussion, and let me straight away go to a simple discussion, some of the problems. Good evening, students. Today we will see a few small molecules and their chemical shift values, and how to predict chemical shift values, and then how many the splitting patterns, all those things we will see. Very small discussion, so I am not going to take it very long discussion, because this semester course is physical oriented, so I just don't want to mix up with the too many organic interpretation. But before that, I just wanted to give you a glimpse of what is NMR, especially for the in the perspective of organic chemistry person, and what actually information that we get from NMR is tabulated or summarized in this particular slide. You can see here there are 4 different things that we can actually obtain. When you get an NMR spectrum, as I told you already, NMR spectrum is nothing but a chemical shift versus a relative intensity. So the intensity of the peaks is plotted, and the number of signals. By looking at the number of signals, we can say that how many type of nuclei is present in the given molecule. Okay, so how many type of magnetically active nuclei is present in a given molecule can be observed, can be identified from the number of signals. Okay, if the spectrum is a proton NMR spectrum, so naturally a protons. If it is a carbon, then naturally carbon 13 NMR spectrum, you can say how many carbons are there. Okay, so similarly, if it is a phosphorus, then based on the number of signals, you can say how many phosphorus uh, uh, are present. Those things you can actually tell. Okay, so number of signals will give you how many different types of proton. So it is not exactly actual number present in a given molecule. How many sets of protons are the type of protons? I mean, there are a set of protons whose magnetic environment is found to be same and identical. As long as the magnetic field is same, then they resonate at one particular frequency. So all those protons, even though they are multiple number, but then we say it is one set of protons, one set of nuclei. Okay, and if other set of nuclei has the similar chemical environment and magnetic environment, then they will resonate at different place. So by looking at those number of signals, you can say how many type of protons, how many variety of protons are there, that you can actually tell. And the other thing is, like, by looking at their position, where exactly they are, how close they are to the TMS signal or the standard signal. Okay, based on that, you can predict the chemical environment of those protons. Of course, most of the cases we have more than one protons. So de-shielding and shielding, okay, with respect to each other, and also with respect to the TMS signal, we can actually identify. Okay, if a proton is very far from the TMS signal, it is said that their the magnetic field, such a proton is said to be present in a having highly withdrawing, is experiencing more the is experiencing more the magnetic field. Therefore it will resonate at a very longer in the higher chemical shift regions. Okay, if a proton is found very close to the TMS, then we say, okay, it is experiencing this thing. So based on the position, then you can say, you can predict the chemical environment of the nuclei. So when you talk about hydrogen, the proton NMR, then it is hydrogens. Okay, chemical environment of the hydrogens can be identified. And the third very interesting thing is that I just pointed out in the previous class discussion, also integration, relative intensity of these signals. Okay, when you record a spectrum of a molecule, you get different sets of proton resonate at different regions. Okay, you have, let's say, four signals are present. Now just look at those intensity. Okay, and look at those intensity, and their relative intensities actually tell you how many protons are actually contributing that particular signal. In other words, you can actually summarize, take the summation of all those signal protons, then that actually, if you don't have any other complexities in the molecule, then actually you can interpret that number to your how many protons are present. Okay, if you know that you are dealing with let's say acetophenone, and you know that only carbon, hydrogen, oxygen present, right? There is no other molecule. Therefore, the number of protons you have, you calculate, and then based on which, okay, so acetophenone, we will have three signals, and looking at those signals and then integrating those signals and identifying, you can calculate the number of protons, and then you can add them together. It will give the total protons of the acetophenone. Okay, so integration is very, very important. That matching the integration with the total number of protons is very, very important in proton NMR, but not in carbon. Please remember this. Okay, but not in carbon, because of certain other issues which we will discuss as a part of carbon NMR spectroscopy in the next class. Please remember that this integration is majorly related to the proton NMR spectroscopy, not the carbon NMR spectroscopy. Okay, and the another important point is that the splitting pattern give you very interesting thing. Okay, so there is a proverb that you tell your friends, then I tell you what you are. So likewise, if you look at the splitting, and you can actually predict how many neighbors a particular proton is surrounded by, right? So let's say a proton is showing a particular NMRs, a particular region you have seen a quintet. Okay, a particular region you have seen a quintet. What it means? It means that it is having a neighbor. It is having four neighbors, right? It is having four neighbors. Therefore, n plus one is basically, it becomes the quintet, right? So likewise, based on the splitting pattern, you can actually predict something else, right? So these are the four important things that normally we obtain from NMR spectroscopy. Okay, very important thing. Please remember that. Number of signals will tell you uh, how many different types of protons or different sets of protons are present. Okay, the position of the signals will tell you the chemical environment of the hydrogens, right, where they are exactly present in the molecule. Okay, if you have seen at the Diel shielding region, that means the electron density is very less, right, at the around the proton, therefore they will be found there. That means you have to interpret that way. And suppose if you have seen a proton signal in the shielding region, that means it is experiencing the full magnetic field, applied magnetic field, and it will be seen in that region. So shielding, deshielding, and you just do a back calculation kind of thing, and then you can actually tell you what is the actual chemical environment of the hydrogens. The next one is the relative intensity. Relative intensity of the NMR signals is directly proportional to the hydrogens present, okay, hydrogen that are contributing those signals. So add them together, and then those give you the total hydrogens. Okay, and then a splitting pattern. The splitting pattern will tell you the neighboring, how many neighbors are there in a given, how many neighbors are there to adjacent to a particular nuclei which is being investigated by yourself, okay, by an analyst. So these are very, very important. Please remember. What exactly we do, I just give you certain molecules, then we can, let us try to find out what are the, how many number of protons that we can identify. And then naturally you can we can identify the number of signals in the NMR spectrum. So if you are able to identify the number of different types of protons, different sets of protons, right? And each set of proton will resonate at one unique place, and then it will give one signal. So naturally, you'll be able to predict the number of signals in a given molecule. Let us start with the ethyl bromide. Ethyl bromide. So how many signals that it will give? Okay, so ethyl bromide, if you look at, there are two protons on methylene carbon adjacent to the bromine, and there are three protons on the methyl one. So these three protons are said to be equivalent. Okay, so these three protons are said to be equivalent because they are connected to only carbon. The chemical environment of these three protons is identical. Okay, so uh, all these three protons has only one neighbor, that is carbon. Okay, therefore they are said to be equivalent. So three protons are said to be one set. Okay, what about CH2? Again, the two protons has again are said to be equivalent protons. Okay, they are equivalent in the sense that they have the neighbor of only carbon. Therefore, if you record the NMR spectrum of this particular ethyl bromide, then it gives two signals. Okay, so those are identified. Two sets of protons are there. Therefore, naturally, you will get two signals in a NMR spectrum. Let us imagine the other one, the other molecule, that is this particular molecule. So how many sets of protons are there? Well, this one, you just look at this first one. This is the isopropyl group. and you look at this methyl, so you can always remember now. So all methyl protons are said to be one set of protons. Okay, all methyl. But then, how different these two methyl groups are. They different? Are they different? These two methyl groups? They are not. Why? Because you can just look at these methyls are connected to this carbon. Okay, what is this carbon? Okay, these two methyl groups are connected to a single carbon. Therefore, their chemical environment is same. Okay, so these two, even though there are two different methyls, okay, on a particular carbon, these are actually said to be one set of protons, one set. That's all. Okay, and what about this methyl? This methyl chemical environment is different. It is not same as the chemical environment of this two isopropyl group methyl protons, right? So this methyl is directly connected to a electronegative oxygen atom. So this methyl proton is different. What about this methylene and this methylene? Again, these are different. Why? Because this methylene is connected to oxygen, whereas this methylene group connected to a methylene group on one side, the other side it is a methyl carbon. Okay, a methyl proton. So how many total together? So these are actually one set. Okay, and here this is one. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are 5 different environments are there. Okay, there are 5 different environments are there in this molecule. Next job is to you, how many different types of protons are there in this molecule, that is toluene molecule?
Sir, 5.
What are those?
Sir, the top CH3 is 1,
Hmm.
and the next CH1,
Hmm.
and next both sides they are equivalent. Sir. Next one.
Hmm.
Down also both sides they are equivalent.
Hmm.
And the last one in the last carbon 1.
Hmm. Total?
5. Sir.
Where are 5?
4, sir.
4, sir.
Oh, 4.
Okay, so there are 4 sets of protons. You can just put the symmetry. You can use your symmetry concept which you have learned in the group 3 course, and then you can actually predict the number of different sets of protons. So here there are orthoprotons, both are said to be same, 2 orthoprotons and 2 metaprotons, 1 paraproton. So 3 protons, 3 sets of protons, and then methyl proton. So total you have 4 environment, therefore 4 NMR signals we can actually get. Okay, now I'm going to do the other way. Let's say I have a spectrum like this. I have a spectrum like this. The spectrum has only one singlet. The spectrum, NMR spectrum is having a singlet at 1.5 approximately. At 1.5 ppm approximately, there is a singlet. What it means?
Sir, all 12 protons are in the same chemical environment.
Right, that is what I wanted. So all the 12 protons, so it is other way of looking at the NMR spectroscopy. So all these, if you have seen one signal, it means all 12 protons are having unique and same chemical environment. Therefore, that is the reason why they are resonating at one place. Okay, now this is clear. Now next point is that can you get some molecule wherein you can come across this type of protons where 12 protons resonate at one place?
Sir, cyclohexane.
Cyclohexane. Okay, one possibility. Well, more possibilities. Are there any other possibility, please?
Sir, 2,2-dimethyl propane.
So this can be a cyclohexane, can be one possibility. Other one is neopentane, that is the other possibility. Both are possible, but then based on the position, we can actually assign this particular thing to cyclohexane. Okay, so both are possibilities are there. Both possibilities are true. They have the same identical environment. Now we have two different molecules, but then which one is right? Now that you have to look at the chemical shift values, and based on which we can actually tell which one it is. Okay, so methyl generally it doesn't cross the thiopentyl molecule, that it doesn't cross the 1. It will be within 0.8 to 1. It will be in that range, so it will not cross 1. So based on that argument, and then I knew that the cyclohexane, so all these are actually CH2 protons. So CH2 protons are generally observed slightly in the de-shielding region as compared to a methyl proton. Okay, similarly a methine proton, CH protons, will be observed in the de-shielding region as compared to a methylene protons or methyl protons. So based on those arguments, so this particular spectrum, I can say it is that one. Now this particular molecule, you can see here one such possibility that I was talking about, the 2,3-dimethyl-2-butene. Okay, so the 12 protons, when you come across, it could be the other possibility is this. Okay, the other possibility is this type of 2,3-dimethyl-2-butene is the another possibilities. So all these possibilities you can rule out and narrow down to one particular thing based on the positions. So these position values, you have to basically look at the tables and memorize it. Only when you memorize it, you can actually start interpreting the data. Now when you go for a molecule like a benzene, we know that all the protons on a benzene, 6 protons are actually identical. They are in the same chemical environment. Therefore, they will be resonating at one place, and that the region of benzene protons is above 7. Okay, so 7.25 is the region where normally all the benzenes will be, benzene protons will be observed. Okay, now this is another one, xylene. So when you look at the xylene molecule, paraxylene, you have only 2 sets of protons. You have 2 sets of protons. So you can just put the plane, and you can see that methyl protons is the one. The other 2 protons, whether it is the ortho or the meta, you can see both of them have the same one. Ortho or the meta proton, these protons are actually identical. It has got methyl group this side. Again, this proton has got methyl. So these chemical environments are same. What about this? Even this side also, these 2 protons have the same chemical environment. Therefore, altogether these 4 protons will resonate at one place, whereas the methyl proton resonate at other place. Okay, so this is the aliphatic aliphatic region. Typically, it is below 3 is the aliphatic region. Normally, you can say like that. And aliphatic protons are seen, and then aromatic protons are always above 7. Some of the cases they can come down a little bit up to 6.5, but not below than 6.5. Okay, now the another molecule is the tertiary butyl bromide. Tertiary butyl bromide. I think this is the molecule. So whenever you come across 9 protons, then you should always remember, okay, 9 protons, whenever you come across, you should remember that is basically a tertiary butyl group. Okay, tertiary butyl group. Okay, so that is the one. And where they will resonate? Well, if there is no bromine, probably they will be around 1.5 or below 1.5. But as this particular tertiary butyl group is attached with a bromine, which is electronegative, so this chemical shift you can see slightly de-shielded. And ethyl bromide, the ethyl bromide, we have just learned that two environments are there. So methyl proton is one set, and then methylene proton one set. And when you look at the splitting, well, splitting also you can actually predict based on the based on the n+1 rule, one can actually predict the splitting. So the methyl protons will be splitted into 3. Why? Because methyl proton has got 2 neighbors on the adjacent carbon, methylene protons, right? So there are 2 are there, 2 plus 1, it is 3, triplet. So you will see a triplet for a methyl proton. Because of the 2 neighbors, it will be split into a triplet. What about methylene protons? That is CH2 proton, because of the CH3, right? It is like a quintet, as a quartet. Quartet means 4. So 4 protons, 4 signals, a small signals, a cluster of signals one can observe for a methylene protons due to methyl interaction, methyl proton interaction. Okay, a triplet or quartet. And one bromopropane, So this is the molecule. Okay, so here there are 3 different types of protons are there. A, B, C, which are labeled as A, B, C. Then the C protons highly de-shielded relatively as compared to A and B type of protons. They are actually de-shielded, okay, because they are connected to bromine. Now, what about B, the middle one? So it has, again, they are again de-shielded as compared to methyl proton, but not as compared to methyl proton, which is connected to the bromide, right? So what you can see here, that this methyl protons will be observed here, and this one is here, and these protons are here. Now coming to the splitting, well, it is straightforward. This methylene has got 2 methylene protons, so it is a triplet. So you can see that this is exactly is the case, that triplet. And this one is not a triplet, but rather it is a one side it has got 3, the other side it has got 2. So 3 plus 2, it is 5, 5 plus 1. So n+1 rule, if you apply, it will be a sextet. Okay, so 6 small a cluster of peaks you can actually observe for this B methylene protons. What about the other one? What about the other one? The other one, methyl, has got 2 methylene, therefore it will be a triplet. And this is an isopropyl chloride. Isopropyl chloride molecule is shown here, that 2 methyl group, okay, 2 methyl group will resonate at one place, and CH proton will resonate at one place. Okay, CH protons will resonate at one place. So together we will have 2 different signals in the spectrum, and the methyl proton will be a doublet. Methyl protons will be a doublet because both of these methyl protons has one neighbor, that is CH proton. Okay, what about CH protons? Well, those will be a quartet. Those will be a quartet where it will be split into 4 signal. Sorry, not quartet. I'm sorry, not quartet. 4. It is 6. 3 plus 3, 6 plus 7. It is a septet. Okay, it is septet signal. What about 2-bromobutane? 2-bromobutane is shown here. You can see how many type of protons. There are 4 different types of protons you can observe. Okay, so this A, B, C, D. Okay, there are 4 different types of protons, and they are actually here. Here you can see that you don't really see 4 different sets of proton signals in the NMR spectrum. Why is it so? Do you see? So this cluster of peaks you can assign to probably maybe this one, right? It has got 2 one side, on the 3 on one side, so it can be a sextet. So this can be this. Okay, and this, what about this? Probably this is due to this alkane methyl protons are actually here. What about the other 2 proton signals? Like these proton signals and also these proton signals are actually merged together, and then you don't see actual number of peaks, okay, that it is supposed to be. So it is supposed to be 4 sets of protons, but then 2 sets of protons, it so happened that they are resonating at one region. It is possible. In such a situation, this is the exact thing that I was telling, that there can be a matching of the resonating signals. So therefore, they will resonate at one place, and the spectrum becomes very complex second order spectrum. Okay, but this is in fact they are resonating at one place, and the difference is very small. And suppose if you use a high magnetic field instrument, then these two peaks can be well resolved, nicely resolved. You can observe that for these methylene protons, and this methylene protons and this methyl proton signals can be nicely separated in that case. Okay, so orthomethyl benzoyl, sorry, orthomethyl benzoyl chloride. This is this type of molecules. You can see methyl is one type of protons, and benzyl, that is CH2Cl, that one set of protons, and the other one is the other protons. Well, when you have a substitution on the benzene, typically it is so happen that most of the cases that ortho meta para, these protons will be clubbed together. So as a result, you don't see actual signal that they are supposed to be, unless there is a substitutions, double substitutions. Normally we don't see well separation between ortho meta para, but there are molecules they nicely give well separated peaks. Especially it is true for the high magnetic field instruments. You can nicely resolve, but the small magnetic instrument, they don't show. So rather what you observe is this type of very cluster of peaks. Now this you cannot say it is a singlet. Of course it looks like a singlet, but then they are not, because the peak you can see here, it is broadened. The peak is much broader. So the broadening is always, you can assign to more than one proton that it is contributing. Okay, so the signal is because of the contribution of more than one proton. That is why it has got broadening. Had it been the case, this is a perfect singlet, you can say. Even this is also a perfect singlet. So the signals are not much broadened. Okay, so here that you have this proton and these other protons. Okay, so all of them together, 4 are resonating at more or less very close region. That's the reason why you don't see that. Well, you don't see a nicely separated spectrum. Well, ethanol spectrum we have discussed many times, but nothing to say much. Well, so ethanol, there are 3 different types of protons, that OH proton, methylene proton, and then methyl proton. So you will have 3 types of protons. And ethyl benzene, right? So we have ethyl. So in the case of ethyl, there are 3 different signals again. So most of the monosubstituted compounds, what you observe is this, that all the protons on the benzene, the remaining 5 protons on the benzene, they will be resonating at one place. Please remember this. This is a kind of observation, that all the monosubstituted benzene, the chemical shift value, the proton chemical shift values are more or less same. Therefore, they will be resonating at one region, and the peak will be very prominent and intense. Okay, so you don't expect ortho meta para. Theoretically, it is true. Previously, we were discussing about a toluene molecule, wherein I have mentioned there are 4 different types of protons are there. Well, that is theory. That is true that the electron density at the other protons electron density or chemical environment is different from the meta and the para, and vice versa. But in reality, we don't see, because of the instrument what you are using. Well, if you use a better instrument, definitely you can see the thing. But if you are using a kind of 200 or 300 NMR spectrometer, you won't see. But then 400 and 500 NMR spectrometer, megahertz NMR spectrometer normally gives a nicely separated signals. Okay. So after ethyl benzene, what I have diethyl benzene. Okay, so we can keep on discussing this type of molecules, many. But what is something that it will be more interesting if you just study the chemical shift values and then remember, then I can discuss all these things. I can give you some examples, and so that you can try out your knowledge, how much you have learned it. Okay, so I have so many problems are there. I have aromatic compound and all these things, many compounds are there. You can discuss and do this. You can learn all those things by yourself, because discussing from my side, it is like one side batting, because in the spectroscopy, once you have been taught the basic theory and then their rules and everything, the next thing is that you should practice. To practice, first of all, you need to have a base knowledge, and the basic knowledge is that you should read the chemical shift values. If you read the chemical shift values, I can give the NMR data. That NMR data you can try to interpret it, or else I can give a molecule. Okay, you should give me the chemical shift values, approximate chemical shift values. This is the general exercise we are supposed to do it. Okay, and in the next class, probably whenever it happens, so I think I can take up that particular discussion. So I don't think that anybody has studied the chemical shift values of the major proton chemical shift values. Nobody has studied, I'm sure. So next class, if you're ready, probably we can just do a small exercises as to complete this particular course. So with this, I have completed my discussion more or less for this particular course. And remaining thing, if you have any doubts, and if you wanted to learn little more about solving the problems and predicting the chemical shift values for different molecules, that exercise probably we can take it up in the next class. Okay, so thank you for listening, and